Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. We're gonna be interviewing today a great mixing engineer. His name is Benny Faccone. He had worked with people like Maná, Luis Miguel, Santana, a lot of people in the music business, music industry, in the Latin side, talking in Spanish, but he's not from. Okay, saludamos a todos los que están conectando. Okay, Benny está. Now you see in the bottom the two guys with the plus sign. Exacto, view request. He sent me the invitation. I am accepting the invitation right now. I accept the invitation. Here we go. Hello.
Finally.
Finally, man. How are you?
Sorry, I was doing it on my computer.
Don't worry, man. Don't worry. I was just chilling out, talking with some people about baseball, Los Angeles, a lot of things.
Yeah, well, it's LA. It's too cold at nights to go see baseball.
Yeah, today, well, I'm in Brazil, so right now here it's really hot, man.
What part?
I mean, like in Porto Alegre, that's the city in the
Porto
south.
Alegre. So you're south. You're way south.
Exactly.
I have a good friend, Greco Barata, who's from a guitar player. He's
Greco.
from there. Greco. Do you know Greco?
Greco, it was the guy who played with Enrique Iglesias?
Yeah, and Shakira and K.D. Lang. Yeah, great guitar player.
I know him.
Yeah.
Remember that when we were mixing our record with you, he get into the studio. I get to know him.
Wow, remind me, where was the studio?
We were you were in the next to the how's the name of that singer, Puerto Rican singer? I can remember.
Draco Rosa?
Exactly. Your studio were next to the Draco Rosa.
Oh, okay.
That was,
Yeah. When I got my first studio, I was there on the same lot. Draco had the whole lot, and I leased a room. Yeah.
exactly. And I remember that we get into that studio, and I get to know Greco over there. And Greco, he's living right now in Brazil, in Porto Alegre.
No, he lives here, but he goes. I'm sure he goes there a lot, and he's always talking about it. That's why I'm familiar. I used to go to Rio and Sao Paulo to do a lot of projects. So
okay.
that's the only. And Campinas?
Campina.
Outside, yeah, Campina with Chitonzin and Chororó.
And
Sandy and Junior.
he played with those guys.
No, that's why I'm familiar with those places. But when I met Greco, he talked to me about Porto Alegre. That's how I know that area.
Okay, that's nice. Yes, because those guys that you mentioned, those are really, really big people here in Brazil, man.
Are they still big? Is Sandy and Junior still there?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Sandy and Junior, they are the sons of one of those guys. Because, they're really, really famous. They're not playing together right now, but they're really famous over here.
And what about Chitonzin and Chororó? Are they famous?
Those guys are legends. Those guys like, I don't know. Let me try to. Those guys are like Luis Miguel type of things here.
Yeah.
Really, really famous. Those guys. Man, I'm really happy to talk to you again, bro.
Thank you, man. It's nice. It's been a long time.
Long time. Long time. Oh, like 5 years ago? I almost
more. Because I was at Draco Studio for 6 years, and then I left and came out to my area and had a studio here for about 6 years. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I moved my studio into my house. So I have got basically my everything in my house, my mix room. So, and that's been about, so between the studio here and in the neighborhood. It's been about 10 years, so it's got to be at least 12 years.
Yeah. Well, we got the opportunity to go to your house, and I know the place that over there.
To the house? Well, we're at the studio at my house, or?
See, I got the opportunity to go over there. You
Okay.
were recently getting the stuff over there. You were planning to build some wall, and you explained that to us.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
There's so much to try and remember, but anyway, but it's nice to talk to you. Nice. Do you have all the people from Brazil, or are they from all over South America, or?
no, they from all over. I have people following me from United States, from
Oh,
Europe,
nice.
from Argentina. Actually, there's a studio here from Argentina, and they're saying like incredible is watching Benny, one of the greatest mixers in the world, Luis Miguel, Romance, that. Fan, bro.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well,
Actually, maybe we can start with one question.
actually, I even see a friend of mine, Gaby Cesaris from Montreal.
Exactly. Actually, maybe we can start with a question that those guys from Argentina make. They talk like, please ask Benny what are the type of monitors or the monitors of his preference.
I can show you. Tannoys. They're the SRM 10Bs. So they're the older ones that they're hard to find. Tannoys makes the newer ones, the Super Gold SRM 10s. But those ones you uh, have to replace the crossovers. Not Westlake, Manley started to make these type of studio of monitors for a while. They were a little dark, but they were close. And the reason I got these was about 15 years ago, or maybe more, 20 years ago, at Conway that I worked at a lot. They used to have these monitors. And when I went to, when I did a record in Puerto Vallarta I was there 8 weeks. We put a little studio together for Maná. And we got, this was before Pro Tools. So in 97, we got a console, a little console, 24 track tape machine. And these speakers that I sent down there, and ever since, I got used to them and started using them. So, and then I found out that Al Schmidt uses these speakers or used them, but
You,
he had them a little modified. So they're great speakers.
yeah, man. That's well. You answered the question of my people from Argentina. And now, my dear friend, I have one question.
Yeah.
How did you start your career in mixing?
Um, People started paying me. No, no, no. I went to Berklee in '75, and I met my wife there, and she persuaded me to move to Los Angeles, and I figured, why not? It's where all the music is, and so I started making applications for studios, and through Berklee, I made a connection with an older student who was working at A&M Studios. So I contacted him, and he got me an interview at A&M, and by how it came about, the head of A&M Studios, his name was Don Hahn. He basically, great engineer from New York. He was from Montreal. So he interviewed me and said, you're Italian, you come from Montreal, and so you must be good. And he said, you're hired. So I started. That's how my engineer
Yeah.
part started. But I was lucky because after about 4 years assisting, being working, the Barbara Streisand records, Herb Alpert, and a lot of these great albums. Then they started a Latin division, A&M Discos, and a good friend of mine, Jose Quintana, was the head of that studio. So all of a sudden, a lot of Mexican mainly artists heard about A&M discos and about the studio, so they started coming up. Jose, Roberto Carlos, Juan Gabriel, and I didn't know who they were. I just, and nobody wanted to do Latin music because it wasn't American, it wasn't as good. I said, I'll do it. And that's where I met Maná for the first time, and Luis Miguel.
Okay, man. Okay, that's a really nice story. That's where I met Mana.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Back then, Maná was Sombrero Verde. They were basically, you know, this the first thing we did was Rayando el Sol,
Yeah,
and they were a good band. But back then, luckily, it's not like today where they had a really good friend. I think this what happened in Guadalajara, who was part of a radio station, and they started playing that record, and that record became very popular. And then from Guadalajara went to Mexico, and it became big, and that's
huge.
how it became Maná.
Exactly. My friend, what do you consider to be the most challenging aspects of mixing?
Today is totally different from back when I started. Back when I started, the challenge wasn't the mixing. We would do the whole project from beginning to end. So basically, we would when you're the engineer, the mixer, whatever, you basically start from day one. The tracking, you get the option to talk to the producer about what kind of musicians you want to use, what studios you want to go to, and depending on the budget, of course. Back then the budgets were pretty good. That we would go to the best studios, have the best musicians available. So I was able to work with that, and the mixing was basically I already knew what was going on. We just put everything together. Today, you know, you get so many different things. You don't even know. We don't record it anymore. It's just mixed. So you get all these tracks that are all over the place. So you basically, as a mixer, have to start from scratch. So it's a different situation. So the hard part is understanding the rough mix.
I remember something that it was a huge impact for me was like when you mix our record back then, we have like 10 guitar tracks, like a lot of guitar tracks, and you not even look of those tracks, you just erase from the face of the earth like the
I did.
half of track.
I
And I was,
did.
you're not here.
Why did I do that?
I don't know, man, no sé.
Was it on purpose or was it an accident?
No, it was like when you get, it was something like let's play another, and when you put another a guitar track, you can hear like the guitar sounding like bigger. But you explain that to me, like you don't need to record
Hmm.
a lot of guitars. You don't need, you just need one guitar. You explain that to us. I remember.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the problem today. Sometimes you get all these tracks, and especially with Pro Tools, you have about 30 tracks that are little pieces. You have no idea unless you mix it, you don't know what these little pieces are. But you don't know how to mix it because you haven't heard the mix. But until the mix is finished, you don't know. So it's like a vicious circle. You don't know what this is until it's done, but you can't finish until you know what this is. So, the old days, or what they would do is record a basic guitar track with the drums. You don't have like 35 different drum tracks, just like guitars, and it becomes crowded when you just start putting little things everywhere. So I guess what we were doing is just trying to thin it out and make sure, what was necessary was all the only thing you put in there.
My friend, can you share an interesting or challenging story from your experience in the music industry?
Well, I can't say any bad things, but I don't know. Some of the good things, it's a different time now, but there was so much fun back then. You'd go to Puerto Rico to record a vocal with Luis Miguel, or you go to Miami and and do that, or you go to Mexico, or there was a lot of traveling, a lot of working outside. Rio, I went there a lot. Did maybe a record with Natinho. Um, and so I think 2 or 3 records with Chitonzine and Shout Out On, and Leo and Dan. I think that's one also.
Leo Dan.
So Leo, no, not Leo Dan. It's a duet, a duo.
Ah, a duet. I don't know him. Maybe my
Yeah,
know them.
I don't remember. But back then, it would be fun because you would be working with people. So every time I would go, there's always something fun that happens. Now we're stuck in a room by ourselves doing nothing. But there, I don't know, experience wise, um, it's just I used to love traveling like with bands like Maná or even Luis Miguel, and the things that they will go through with the fans. What they traveling in limos, and just watching they get mugged, or women would be jumping on them. And there's one time we went to Sevilla with Luis Miguel. He was closing the World's Fair, and this was back in 92, 93, and I brought my son. Figured it'd be a good experience. So the day we were setting up the stage, I remember him telling me that it's like all these women would go up to him, and they thought that he was Luis Miguel's cousins or somebody, and they would offer things just so they can have him introduce them to Luis Miguel, and that's kind of what started him wanting to be a musician. So
By the way, how's your son?
he's good. He's good. He's good. I think my daughter said she's watching also.
Oh, okay, nice, nice. I remember him because I had the opportunity to talk to him, sending some messages,
Mm.
emails when
Oh,
he was
okay.
in a band called, I can't remember the name. You talked
New
to
number two.
that one, that band.
Yeah, yeah. That was with George Harrison's son.
Exactly. He was just with George Harrison's son. Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you think about the last song about the from the Beatles? Nice, right?
Different.
Different. Huh?
Different. I don't know. It's great. Any Beatles stuff and what they do, but it sounded a little not like the Beatles, but the Beatles. It's almost like how they extracted John Lennon and even George Harrison's guitars. I don't know. Something about it didn't have the Beatles feel to it, because I love the Beatles.
Exactly. Now, I know that you are a Beatles fan. Here we are a Beatles fan. Let's see.
Well, I've got some pictures of Beatles here too, but yeah,
Exactly. I know that you had a lot of things of the Beatles.
yeah.
Mm, yeah, 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 bro. That was. I remember one time when you were mixing our song. That's something interesting. Maybe you can share a little bit of that. I remember that you
And
were mixing, and
I feel, sorry, go ahead.
I was like annoying you. For example, like Benny, my voice is like too low, too low, and I said like 3 times. And I remember that you turned around, you talked to me and said like, you wanna that your record sounds like a Latin American record, or you want that the record sounds like an American record. So you
I
have,
used to get I used to get a lot of crap because I liked to tuck the vocal in with the music. It wasn't like making it loud, loud, loud. And today they make it loud, obviously, but in the mix they make it loud. But by the time it goes to whatever platform they're listening, it gets even louder because they convert it to MP3. They all the brightness gets brighter, all the mid range, all the middle gets louder. So if you listen to Spotify or whatever, it's all vocals and drums, and the guitars or anything else sound farther away. So it almost makes everything in the center sound twice as loud. So when you're mixing, everybody would say, "I want it to sound like that," but to sound like that when you're mixing, then it'll sound twice as loud over there, and that's why everything got louder and louder and louder, and now it's nothing but vocals. So,
Exactly.
but I was always, I don't know what it is, but I was always mixing like that. Because I was more, um, when I listened to music, I listened to the groove and the melody as opposed to the lyrics. So that's naturally, I always want to make sure the music and everything was there. So that was just my way of listening.
Exactly.
But yeah,
No,
a lot of people would do that. I wouldn't get mad, but I would get it would become personal. It's like, why? You don't like what I'm doing?
no. You weren't mad at all. You just turn around, and then after that, you explain me an experience that you have with Sting, and
Oh,
he
I
was.
knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say. I tell that story all the time. No, well, he really made an impact. I was mixing one song that Sting did. He did a record for A&M through A&M Discos, and he came in. He goes, "The vocals too loud." I went, "Man, even for me, the vocals too loud." And he goes, "Yeah, when I don't know if still the same way, what he thinks now, but he would say, I want people to hear the lyrics, but I want them not only to listen to the music, but I want them to to be able to listen to them, and not just easy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like if you put the vocals too loud, then they won't listen. If you kind of tuck it in, they have to sit, concentrate, and listen to the vocals. So it's like, wow, okay. I think subconsciously, ever since, I always tuck the vocals in, and I do even to this day. I get a lot of crap for not making them really loud.
Exactly.
So
No, that's something that is stuck in my mind. And when I'm trying to make something, I always think about that. Also, I think about the guitar things. I learned a lot of things from you, man.
well,
Uh,
thank you. But I learned a lot of things from the people that I work with too, and that was the great thing about working at A&M, with all these great engineers that will come in, like Bruce Swedin, um, even Al Schmidt, all these guys. What they would do, it just they make miracles. So when um, when I worked with Bruce Swedin, he came in doing a Sergio Mendes record. It was right after he finished Thriller, and he brought the stereo masters, the half-inch masters of Thriller. So we would play those. It's like one copy over, and it sounded. I mean, when you hear it on the radio, it comes from here to down there. It's 50%, but when you hear it like directly from the original recording, it's like it just blows you away how incredible it
I, ima-
sounded.
I imagine because in your studio, I also had the opportunity that you were saying to me like you want to listen something cool, and you just put a track, and it was Freddie Mercury like rehearsing. You put me like
Oh yeah, all those tracks. Yeah,
you
yeah,
you were doing something with Queen, and you put to me the voice of Freddie Mercury. He was
yeah,
like preparing for the song, and that
yeah,
was and
yeah,
chill, bro. It was something.
yeah.
It was
Well,
something.
these guys. I mean, what I learned from all those guys, it's about feel. It's about. Um, Obviously, there's what they call a pocket where you would find a place to put everything, and everybody has a different opinion of where things should be. So like when you listen to Michael Jackson, I hear all the music and the voice, and everything is clear. When I hear any great ballads, what Al Schmidt did, man, it wasn't what we call today. I call it poetry. You hear vocals and you can barely hear the music. So back then it's like Yeah, you listen to any song back then, Earth, Wind and Fire, or it's like the music and the vocals were together. Now, so long if the vocals are loud and the lyrics, that they don't care about anything else. And when I started with Latin music in 80 81, it was literally the same way where the music itself was sounded pretty bad because the recording was done, in Mexico, or they didn't care about the music. All they cared about was the vocals, like Jose Jose or Juan Gabriel. But I always said, people aren't stupid. They like to listen to music. I think I was wrong, that basically right now, because all they care about is the vocals. But yeah, that's how I kind of came that way. And but I was lucky too, with the people and the bands that came in, they were good. I was lucky.
That's nice, man. And that's working in that studio. That's how you got in the We Are the World thing, that project.
Well, yeah, when I was at A&M, basically, yeah, um, um, I was one of the. I guess I've been there for a long time. I knew the place inside out, and yeah, I was my boss, who I was his assistant. He was my mentor. He did a lot of great records, a lot of big band stuff, a lot of orchestral, um, well, with the Barbra Streisand records and things. That one day, about 2 weeks before we did it, he said, "In 2 weeks on Monday, um, you're booked doing this session. It's going to be at least 2 days, but you're not getting paid, and that's it. Leave." And I go, "What? I'm not getting paid? I don't want to do it." I thought it was like a very special something. At the same time, Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson were doing that single "Say Say Say" or something over
Mhm.
at Westlake. I thought maybe they're coming in and we have to keep it all quiet. And I didn't know till that day that we were doing "We Are the World."
And
Yeah,
how was
and I didn't even, as we were setting up, I still had no idea what was going on. And then all of a sudden, at about 7 o'clock, Michael Jackson shows up, and he started to do the basic vocals. Then at 10 o'clock, you see all these people going, "What the hell's going on?" So
and how was that experience? I can't imagine how you feel that day.
you know what? It's like a pregnancy. You don't realize what's happening because you're so busy, and you're doing all these things. It doesn't hit you till later. What just happened? Because during that time, I mean, I was next to Bruce Springsteen, Paul Simon, Lionel Richie, um, um, Kenny Loggins, all I mean, all these amazing singers, and to me, it was like I just had to work. I have to concentrate on working, but we worked literally 24 hours nonstop. And when it was over, I just sat on the couch. It was like, well, my eyes were all red. I haven't slept. I still didn't know what was going on. And then like 3 or 4 days later, when all this news about We Are the World, I went, oh, I was there.
Benny, now that you're talking that those things, those amazing things, how then I got a question. What is your approach or or philosophy when you're doing the mixing, when you're mixing?
Well, I mean, definitely I listen to the rough mix to make sure, that I don't do something different from originally what they had in mind. So I always ask for a rough mix, but I also ask for the Pro Tools session because I start from where they stopped. So I don't just start from scratch because if there's effects on there or certain things, I can either keep it, make it better, or get rid of it. So I have that ability of to do that kind of stuff. But it's more me. My approach is it's so long as it grooves, it's got punch, it's fat, and everything is there, all the elements, and have transparency and all that stuff, and the vocal feels good around the music. That's what I shoot for, that everything grooves.
Nice, man. What do you believe is the most crucial role of a mixing engineer in a music production?
Get a great sounding mix. I mean, that's what it is. That even though everybody has their own concept of what the mix should be, or how they approach it, it's just like any other musician. If you call, let's say drummers, if you call Vinny Caluda, or you call Greg Bissonette or John Robinson, they're all amazing players, but they all play different. The same thing I think with mixers. They all have a different concept of how a song is going to sound or turn out. Manny American, he's got some great mixes. The stuff that he likes to do with that bottom end is incredible. Chris Lord Alge has amazing mixes. His stuff is more mid-range. It's not really about the balance or the levels of the mix. It's how you paint the picture and the colors that you put in there. And everybody has different colors.
That's re-
And
that's
that's
interesting because when you're mixing, generally, what people say is you have to look for the balance, the bass, the kick with the bass, and you're telling another thing.
Well, that's definitely all part of it, but it's got to all be part of the picture. Even though I don't talk colors or all that, but I do remember Bruce Swedien and Quincy Jones. They would talk in colors. You need more green. You need more blue. I have no idea what that meant, but it's more to me. It's about having the right amount of bottom end, but also balance in the track. But also if you add certain things to it, so it's not just the level thing. It's if it's compression, or if it's adding something to give it a groove, or maybe a delay on the guitar. It's not to change the the performance of it. It's just to try and give it the groove to make it better. So it doesn't necessarily, if you just worry about balance and levels, then it becomes a 2D picture. It's not really, there's no depth. So it's about how do you create that depth? Because today it's not like the old days where when we track, you'd have leakage. You'd have the drums would leak into the piano. So, or back in the 40s and 50s, everybody would record at the same time. So you can almost hear the room. Now we do one at a time, so everybody is 2D. There's no room. If you go to if you ever go to see a movie, right, and you hear the orchestra, you can actually hear the orchestra like they're in the back room. The picture is here, and the orchestra is behind them playing, so you can feel that depth that they've got. And that's one thing that when I used to go to mastering with Bernie Grunman, that he taught me, is basically those speakers were so amazing that you would listen to those main speakers, and you can actually hear how far the drums are, how close the bass is, where all the perspectives are. And that's what a mix is. It's not, it's more about, and somebody else even told me, it's like, you
Hello, Benny. I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you right.
yeah, you can. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. My brother was calling, so the phone vibrated. Um, what was I saying? That's what happens when you get old. You
No, you
forget.
were saying that what Bernie Graham taught you.
Oh, yeah. Basically, when I listen mastering, and I used to go to last mastering all the time, just to get. It's like doing homework. You go there, you see what you did right, what you did wrong, because those mastering guys, it was all about how your song sounded on the radio or at home. It's not about what it sounded like in here. So you can actually hear the perspectives, and I go, oh man, I put too much reverb on this, or I didn't put enough. So you can actually walk into your mix But what happens now when they started with the volume wars, everything is compressed. So
Yeah.
instead of having dynamics and air, everything is like this. So you lose everything, and it's basically there's no dynamics. So if something is too loud, well, the compressor will fix it. It's too low, well, the compressor will fix it. But it doesn't have that depth that usually um, you know that they would have. And MP3s may have that problem too, because everything that's transferred or everything we hear today on Spotify, on anything, any platform, it's all basically an MP4, which
Exactly.
is totally different than if you hear, even some really good WAV files. Or I never download an MP4 if I have to hear something critically. I still, in the sense, I still have CDs, and CDs, we used to hate the way they sound, but now that's my listening reference because that sounds better than downloading something.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of information.
No, no, I'm just uh, enjoying what you're saying and thinking at the same time.
Ah,
Yeah, because
okay.
that now the city is your reference. That's really curious.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And you're right, because what platforms they like compress everything. That's why you have to be careful when
yeah,
you make something. You have to be in a level when you're not when you too much compressed from the platform.
yeah, yeah. Well, I used to fight, and it was to me, I realize now it was kind of a mistake, but I used to fight putting compression.
Benny, I can hear you there. The sound now.
Yeah,
No,
can you hear me now?
yeah.
Somebody's calling me, and it mutes your voice.
Okay.
Um, Putting compression on my stereo mix, because I would be so focused on my mix that if they put a compressor on it, it would change my perspectives. But the stereo mix was the compression was important, so your mix stands up volume wise to everybody else's. But I'd literally, when we did the Romance record, I was fighting everybody, the president of the label, Luis Miguel, Bernie Grumman, that I didn't want to put compression on it. But reflecting today, it was a smart thing to do. I put compressor on it, but I put it after I finish mixing, and I use it as a another tool, just to kind of hug the mix, not just throw everything out, put a compressor on it, and not worry about the dynamics.
Exactly. Benny, what advice would you give to someone who is starting out in mixing engineering?
Find a plan B. It's hard. It's hard today to be. It's different time in music. It's almost like you have to do your own thing to be successful. Everybody works from their house. Everybody works on their own production. And I teach music production at Cal Lutheran University here. And a lot of people are so used to um, working with their laptops, and they'll record their own stuff, which basically, to me, music is a collaboration. And the best things and the best times you have is when you're working with other people. Um, Even if they're not the greatest musicians in the world, but when you have a drummer and a bass player that you're recording, it's the most fun, because they're playing music. Even if you're doing samples, if you're doing drum beats, if you do everything yourself, it's like one person playing everything. It's almost um, sterile. It doesn't have a feel. So to me, it's about getting out there and collaborating with a lot with people, and not being afraid. Even though if you're doing your own production and you're a piano player, if it's all about the music, and if you have If there's somebody that can play piano better than you, use that person. Just because you play piano doesn't mean that you should play everything on your production. It's the same thing with the in the 60s and 70s. The majority of the records were recorded in LA by the same band, the Wrecking Crew. The Motown, all that Motown sound, it was by one band. But when they went live, they would play. But when they're in the studio, you would get, incredible musicians. Today, we can get okay musicians, shift it, move it around, and put it into place, but you don't capture that feel. So, if you have the feel, it's great. But, if you don't, then find somebody that can put the feel in it. Today, when somebody works, they open their laptop and they're writing, recording, and mixing the song all at the same time with the samples. So I think the more you go out there and you collaborate with people, the more you find so many other great things that are happening musically.
Exactly. And right now we're gonna be like farther away, more to the front. What do you think? Because we're talking about we need to collab more. But right now, what do you think? How do you think artificial intelligence could influence the future of music production and mixing?
It's a good question. I don't know enough about it. I do know a friend of mine was telling me how they're starting to use a lot of it. But I think just like just like keyboards, just like digital equipment, there's once we learn how to use it in the music world, and I'm sure there's something that can be kind of used together, but just to use it all, artificial intelligence, then it becomes sterile. The same thing like if I tell AI, okay, write me a two-page story about somebody's love life, but make it in the way of the best writer in the world. They do it, but it's not. It doesn't have. It's very sterile. So once there's a fusion between AI and human, I think that's where it needs to go. Just like we're doing with digital. Now it's becoming, digitally. Sorry, I lost somebody was calling me again. But now we know how to use it in a human way, that it's not just, open up GarageBand, pick a loop from here, loop from there, put it together. Hey, I wrote a song. So we've learned how to use it. And I think AI, once you learn how to use it, I think, it's, it's inevitable. We have to progress, and that's one of the things that's you need to progress with, and we have to learn it because it's going to be there for with us. um Again, it's if it feels okay, nothing wrong with it. I just don't know enough about it yet to
Yeah,
see what's going to happen.
but your opinion is really important because we were at the beginning talking about the Beatles, and part of the song was thanks to the AI. They be able they can
Hey, yeah,
they take the John Lennon's voice using AI.
yeah.
And that
But what they said was all they did was extract it.
exactly extracted.
As opposed to what a lot of people are trying to do today is to try and, well, I want to do Paul McCartney's voice, and you sing the song and they put it in the form of Paul McCartney. That's kind of like it's not the same. But with this Beatle thing, again, I don't even feel like John Lennon's voice is John Lennon's voice. That's just my feeling.
No,
It just
actually,
something is lost.
actually, let me tell you something. here, like I told you, we are Beatles fans. And my wife, she said to me, the same thing that you're saying, the same things. You can feel something weird in it. Obviously, you're happy because it's a Beatles song, but there's something weird. Actually, she loved more the version that you can find just John Lennon playing with the piano, the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah,
She said that they really love more that
yeah,
version.
yeah. With that last one, when George was still alive, Freebird, Free as a Bird, that was great because it was John Lennon singing, so they didn't extract him. They basically used, from what I understand, they used his natural voice with the piano, and how they did it all. It was amazing because they didn't change or do any extraction, and how they recorded around it, like George Harrison with guitars, it felt like a Beatles record. This one, even George Harrison's stuff was not, was, I think they used stuff from a long time ago that apparently they didn't feel that it was worth putting out. And also the harmonies aren't there. So there's things that are not, that they can't do, like they would if John Lennon and Harrison were alive. The kind of harmonies that are the Beatles, it's not there.
Yeah. Also, in this opportunity, they couldn't be able to have the fifth Beatle because
Well,
he's
that too, yeah, yeah,
exactly
yeah,
because it was a piece of the fourth.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
I think that's why a lot of people, like, when John Bonham died and Led Zeppelin said, that's it, we're not going to tour anymore. It's because it was the four of the four of them that made a great, what made it great. Once one of those, branches fall, it's not the same. When I still think McCartney, Lennon, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison are amazing separately, but together they're somebody else, and
yes.
that's what we miss. But um, it's too bad. They were there. I still love the songs that they do. I listen to the Beatles channels all the time, and unfortunately, there'll never be another Beatles. But luckily, I'm able to still listen. But when they um, start trying to squeeze some juice out of something that's not there, then you can tell.
Exactly. My dear friend, I was like, we were talking about working collaboration, and I have a
Mhm.
question. How do you approach creative collaboration with artists and another industry professionals?
In terms of co-production or mixing, or
In terms of co-production and mixing, both.
um, how do I approach it? Is basically approach it to where they're coming from. I don't, you know, reinvent the wheel, so to speak. If it's Maná for some reason, they record a certain way, and I kind of mix it a certain way, but for some reason it's not. I approach it like not trying to change them, but just to add, if that makes sense. It's just and what happens is it just turns out the artist has to still be the artist. Um, the sound of the artist has to be there. I just hope that I put my footprint also on what they're trying to do, and by that I mean, try and make a groove, try and make it feel good, and I love punch. I love, that kind of stuff. So that's what I try and put into it. When we used to record, also, I used to be called a pain in the ass because whenever they're recording, I'm always thinking about the mix side of it. And if it's not recorded right, or if it's not played right, then it's going to be hard to mix, almost not impossible, but it won't feel good. So I would always, try and make them play better, not because they're not, but because I'm thinking about the mix, and not, so I'm thinking about the product all the time, which is the song.
Exactly. Benny, what do you think, o más bien, sorry, se fue España, Spanish. What,
No
what do
problem. No, Don't worry about it. I speak Spanish
I know,
sometimes.
I know. What do you believe are the most important skill for a successful mixing engineer to have?
A musical feel. Um, that's it. Just have, you know, I don't know how to read music anymore. I don't know how to play anything, but it's just enjoying music and listening to music, but also um, understanding because I have a lot of students. I kind of see seeing all these new kids and I love working with them because or talking with them because they show me all these new artists that I wouldn't even know who they are. There's amazing artists out there now, but the way they listen to it, you get so used to listening to MP3s or very low quality, or listening on AirPods, or listening on cell phones or computer laptops, that you don't really hear the quality of everything. So we've lost um, the quality of music, and um, that's what I want. Everybody, when you're listening to music, it's not like writing an email while you're listening to music. There's an enjoyment to, especially when it's a great song, just to listen to the song.
Got it. And Benny, as a mixing engineer, because we were talking about the past, present, and the future, what do you think? I had a question.
Mhm.
You, what are there any trends in music production or mixing techniques that you find particularly exciting or promising?
Mixing techniques.
Yeah, something that you, oh man, that this I can use this thing and it
Uh,
looks good. Maybe a lot of people is going to use it, or maybe a lot of people is going to do it.
um, for mixing, obviously I use an analog,
That's a trident, no?
but with automation. So I do everything with automation. But actually, what I call old school meets new school. So trying to find the quality of the old school, the recording sounding great, and all that. But also, there's some great plugins and things that I love to use that actually give me some interesting sounds. So today, what's really interesting is finding new sounds just by going shopping is what I call it. So basically, I'll go through my DSP or native instruments or native plugins, and I don't even know what I'm looking for. It's just basically searching, and I try putting a plugin, and you go, oh wow. So there's nothing really specific, but it's so much on the plugin side. Just playing with that is that every day I find something new, but I still use the same basic things like for drums. Like I love the API 550 EQs, but not the plugin version. I've got 5 of them. So there's things that I always use that I'll do the same for bass. There's I've got some 1073s that I'll go through with the vocals. There's some 1176s and those kind of things. So I'm always going through the same um, analog pieces of gear, but then by adding the plugins is finding that new thing that kind of, oh wow, there are a lot of plugins that I don't even know what they do. I just open it up, and sometimes you freak out, or sometimes you, oh, that sucks. But I love the Echo Boys. I love Crystallizer. I love the all that kind of stuff that just do crazy things to it, but you don't hear it in the mix.
And what about for example, the isotope things that they have like a mixing assistant, mastering assistant, those type of things?
No, those things I don't use. I do use isotope. Well, there's again, I don't know the names, but the isotope stuff are great. Um, when it comes to mastering, or even there's some vocal ones where it'll ride the vocal while you're recording it. To me, I don't like those things, only because it's like AI. It's just It just does something on its own. There's no really thought to it. The way I learned, like even with vocals, even if when I'm mixing, I'll ride vocals. I don't just, keep the vocals here and the music there. I put dynamics into it. So, um, so that's I like to mess with it a lot, but not but dynamically, not so much. Whatever sounds good. And when I used to mix, Luis Miguel or those guys, I'd spend 5 hours writing a vocal as opposed to just compressing the vocals so I don't have to write it, that it just sounds the same all the time. So that creates dynamics, that the vocal almost sounds, the singer sounds like he's doing dynamics, even breaths, that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
No, no, yeah, yeah. That was a really nice answer. Benny, like two more questions, and that's it.
no
the
problem.
the I for example, what do you believe? What do you believe sets a great mix apart from a good one?
Um, That's a good question. Basically, today again, the way we listen to music, it's all sounding the same because it's coming from either the iPhone or the laptop or the headphones. When I listen to it on really good speakers, what I listen for is number one, the feel of the song. If it feels good from top to bottom, that's the most important. And then I start listening. I love bottom end. If there's really good bottom end, I think that's really important. The punch of the drums, even if it's a ballad, and the energy of the song. A lot of songs today have energy from that stereo compression, but what I think is energy is more about the feel of the song in terms of how it's played, not how you can just compress it and everything sounds like that. So I'll try and when somebody said, "Hey, check this out," and if it's for a critical listening, I'll never, you can't tell on these little speakers, so I'll listen on my speakers that I'm used to, and that's when I hear, if it's a really good sounding mix or not a good, and things will stick out. Even on my console over there, I've got right over there. Where is it? Where are you? Where are you? Where's my finger? Right over there. Um, this guy, Steve Ferlot, he does these incredible mods on the console, and what it is he totally bypasses the center section, so my console will have a lot wider range, a lot more bottom end, a lot more top end, so I'm able to hear everything. And not only that, but you can't see my hands, but also when you mix in Pro Tools, everything, even though it's stereo, but it sounds like 90 degrees and 9 and 3, like this far. When
Mm-hmm.
you're mixing on analog, everything sounds wide.
Wider.
It sounds like a full 180 degrees. So those are the kind of things that I listen to, and you go, wow. And again, the depth of the music and
And that's something
talking.
that is really hard to emulate. For example, the analog feel, because you have a really nice tools in the digital world, but
Right.
the analog feel, man, is
Right.
really.
Right. And I tell a lot of people today, up until maybe 20 years ago, from up until now, it really didn't matter because at home, before when I started to work this, everybody had stereo equipment. So you go home when you have a new Eagles record or Queen record, you buy it and you go home and you put it on and you listen on these amazing speakers and your stereo system. But then when the digital world came in and we're listening to earpods and headphones and iPhones, there's nowhere really to listen critically or listen for great music. But now, with all the sound bars that are coming out and all these stereo equipment, 5.1, a lot more people are hearing music in their house that sounds great. So now the music has to sound great too. Before it didn't matter because we didn't have anything to judge or listen to music well.
Man, you were talking about the bottom end. Why there's like why there's because if you look into YouTube, you're gonna be a lot of videos from a lot of people talking about the perfect low end. That why most of the people, why everybody have so much problem to deal with the bottom end.
I still have problem because that is one of the hardest things to do is to add the right kind of bottom end. Um, we're lucky today because the platform that we send everything to, all it is basically they'll compress the crap out of it and it is what it is. But I learned back in the day with vinyl, if you have too much bottom end, the vinyl won't accept it. It'll bounce the needle off the record when they're mastering it. So what the mastering engineer had to do is chop off the bottom end or do certain things so the bottom end would work on there. So that was our hardest thing is finding that perfect bottom end. But now it doesn't matter when you're printing onto Pro Tools, the bottom end could be plus 20. It doesn't matter. So you can make it as loud as you want and it doesn't matter.
Nice. And Benny, the last question, what advice you can give us to all of us who trying to get the best mixer engineer that we can be? What advice you can give to us?
Well, it's like anything else. It's practice, practice, practice. And the more you practice, I think the better you become. Just like any sport, any profession, it's basically um, thinking of a mix, not as a producer, not as a musician, but as a mixer. So again, having a few great songs that you listen to and try and make it sound as great as that, even though probably wouldn't. Even when I was starting, and before we had our own studios, we would go to different studios to mix. I would always bring um, 2 or 3 CDs and listen to before I did anything. One was the Eagles' "Hell Freezes Over." I thought it was a great sounding record, um, and a couple of others ones, and I would just play it and get it kind of inspired, lack of a better word. And not only that, but then when I'm in the studio, I listen to, even though it's a final product, it's not, from the studio. I'd listen to the bottom end, I listen to the punch, and just kind of get me started on how I want my mix to sound. And that's where I would start and just basically listen to good music and it make you a better mixer because you'd want it to be the same way. And it's not just about a good sample, but it's about a good round um, product, you know.
Man, thank you very much. I send you a lot of hugs
Thank
from you.
you.
It
I
was,
wish I was in Rio again.
man, it's my pleasure, man. I'm really happy to have you here, man.
Appreciate it.
I'm really
Appreciate
happy.
it.
Hope to see you soon. Please say hi to your son. I have
I
the
will.
honor to meet him.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Please say
And
hi.
and
Uh,
if you're ever in Rio, say hi to Guto.
¿To quién? ¿To what?
Guto Melo.
Guto
He's a
Melo.
great producer. Yeah, he does a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I have a lot of friends down there. So
Okay, no, I know. If you work with no sé quién Chororó, probably you're gonna be having a lot of friends here in Brazil.
well.
Actually, I remember that when you were mixing our record, by after that, I was talking to you. You okay? I'm going to Brazil because I'm gonna make the Rock in Rio with Maná. When Maná
Oh,
played,
yeah, that's
you
right.
were
I went there for the weekend. Yeah, yeah.
exactly you
That
were
was
here
that
in the.
was it was the first time I went to Rock in Rio. It's like wow.
It's amazing, amazing. I had the opportunity to go to a Rock in Rio, and I saw Aerosmith. I saw Def Leppard. It was great, man. It was
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. The night I was there, um, the Friday night Shakira closed no, was it Shakira? Yeah, I think it was Shakira. The next night it was Maná, but also Coldplay. They closed the show, and the weirdest thing, like the singer, I forget their names, and the guitar player came to say hi to Fed and Alex, and it's like
Chris
so.
Martin.
Yeah, Chris Martin and they were there. They were going, man, we don't know. It's a Spanish crowd. I don't know if they're gonna like our music. They were actually nervous because they weren't sure if the Latin world liked Coldplay. Obviously, when they went on stage, it was amazing. But it's in Rock in Rio, everybody's there. Everybody.
Yeah, Rock in Rio is really nice, man.
Yeah.
My friend, Benny, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for the opportunity. Thank you very, very much.
Hope to see you soon. Thank
Me,
you.
man, me too. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao. Ciao,
Ciao.
ciao.